Good morning, everyone. Thank you all so very much for coming out. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you all so very much for coming out. And instead of having people sit down, I'm going to ask literally if my council, former mayors, former council members would come and state legislators would come stand with me as we start this out. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to bring you all to City Council this morning under unfortunate circumstances. It's great to see so many leaders here who have influenced the direction of our community. It's because of the leadership that you have behind me that the City of Asheville has seen unprecedented growth, and we've been able to weather the recession and many storms our city has faced. I'm really proud that over the years that are represented here behind me, we can say that Asheville is a beautiful place not only to live and to work, but also to visit. It's because of the collective policies that were approved by individuals who are standing behind me. We have seen Asheville become one of the best places to live. And farmers have said we are one of the best places to do business. But more importantly, we are who have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the state. We've added more jobs from January 2012 to January 2013, percentage-wise, than any other city in North Carolina. Yeah, Ms. Jordan, you can clap about that. Because of this group behind us, we have unprecedented partnerships that we have created as a community. When we think about the vibrancy of Asheville and what makes us a unique community, it's because the people behind me, during the time that they've served, they've worked and they've built bridges, whether it's through the Land and Sky Regional Council, whether it's working with Pack Place, whether it's working with Buncombe County Commissioners. Our leaders have committed to working with individuals to make this community better. And when they've worked, they've not only thought about the city of Asheville and the citizens of Asheville, they thought about the citizens of Buncombe County and the millions of citizens from across this country and the globe who come to Asheville to visit our community. So today it's troubling when we think about House Bill 488. It forces the loss of the city's water system. Forcing the transfer of assets is harmful to our state-wide efforts to encourage economic development and business growth. Stability and predictability in terms of municipal assets and agreements are extremely important in terms of how Asheville, North Carolina are viewed as a place to do business. Based upon the opinion of the state treasurer, those factors could impact bond ratings in North Carolina, which may increase the taxpayers' cost to borrow funds for critical capital infrastructures. The uncertainties created by this move could also undermine the ability of other cities and towns to issue bonds because they would have to be disclosed to potential lenders in the future, impacting desirability in the bond market. Over the last few months, you've heard this council and myself talk about the issues impacting House Bill 488 impacting our city. Today, I'm not going to spend time talking about how bad that bill is. Today, I'm going to tell you that we are proud that we put the legal team together of Moore Van Allen and Long, Parker, and Warren, Anderson, and Payne, and our city attorney, Bob Oates, to help us defend our water system. I'm proud. I'm proud to let you know that we will file a complaint in Wake County Superior Court early next week to help us keep our water system. I'm really proud of the fact that Senator Martin Nesbitt is here standing with us, and he's going to speak right now.
Thank you, and welcome all. I'm truly appreciative of the city taking this step, as I take a little bit different approach to this, and I've said it over and over. This isn't my system, their system, or Tim Moffitt's system to take or give away. This system belongs to the people of this county, and it belongs to my grandchildren, their grandchildren, and their grandchildren. We're number one in the state because we did the fundamentals right. We have good water, good sewer, clean air, and we all worked to produce all those. And at this point, it's unfortunate you're going to be saddled with the burden of representing all the people of this county, because this water system is vitally critical to the future of our people. And to move it from the possession of elected officials to an appointed board, where Buncombe County and the city of Asheville, if they voted together, could not control, is a taking of our assets and giving them to somebody else. We must fight, and we must win, and we must keep this water system under the control of elected officials, so when we don't like what they do, we can get redress of our grievances, which we have done periodically through the years. So I commend you on this. I thank you for doing it. You're doing us all a service in this county, and hopefully some of the other local governments in the area, and perhaps even the county, will join you in this effort. Thank you.
Next we'll hear from Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Mayor Bellamy, and thank you, council members and former mayors and all of the people who are gathered here together today to in one sort of united voice, tell the state that you don't agree with what's going on with House Bill 4088. Earlier in the week, once we knew that the bill had passed the House, that we had concurred with the changes that came over from the Senate, and by the way, when I say we, I will qualify that because I had every single member of my caucus with me in voting against concurrence and against 488. But when we found out that it was going to go to the governor, thanks to, and I have to say this over and over again, thanks to the volunteers here in Asheville and Buncombe County, I had a box full of petitions, 5,000 signatures, that I delivered with a cover letter to the governor, to Governor McCrory, asking him to veto this bill. And as you know, he will let it go into law without his signature. And I believe that the reason he did that is because he knows how important it is to keep an accountability going with water systems, to keep cities intact. We have seen nothing but taking of power from cities over and over and over again in our committees in the legislature. And this is just part of that scenario. So I applaud the citizens of Buncombe and Asheville for sticking with this. For fighting this, for valuing the city, and for recognizing the real economic hub that we are in Western North Carolina, because you're not alone. There are other cities across this state who could face the same issue. And it was never more obvious to me than when Representative Stam from Wake County put in his amendment to protect the citizens in Wake County from being harmed by this bill. So that tells you that this is not just about Asheville. It's about cities and towns all over the state. So I thank you. I thank the citizens of Asheville and Buncombe for sticking with this fight, and we will see it through to the end. Thank you very much.
Now we'll hear from former mayors. I stand on their shoulders. It's been a pleasure talking to the former mayors about this issue. And I'm going to start with Mayor Worley, then we'll go to Mayor Signet and Mayor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to say it's a pleasure to be here. It's not really that much of a pleasure under the circumstances, but I am delighted to join in with all the other folks standing up here. It's really hard for me to figure out where to start. So much has already been said. So much has been published in the newspaper and on the television and on the blogs about how this will harm the city of Asheville and how it is not the right thing to do. I have to tell you that I'm actually in a state of shock. I would never, in my wildest dreams, have thought that the legislature would take an action to strip Asheville, or any city for that matter, of such a significant asset created well over 100 years ago with the acquisition of property in North Fork that is probably worth billions of dollars today. It's unprecedented to me. It sets a very bad precedent for the rest of the state. I think every city and town in North Carolina has to be fearful of similar action if they, for whatever reason, create a controversy that displeases one or more legislators. And indeed, we've already seen that starting to happen in a couple of other situations. Asheville has been a good steward of the water system. I have been heavily involved with the water system during my tenure on City Council and as mayor. I served as chairman of the Water Authority for a period of time. And I can tell you we've been good stewards, and we have done our very best to work with Buncombe County, work with Henderson County when that was appropriate, and there has been so much in the way of misleading statements made in connection with this controversy that have tried to set the stage for their taking that just are not true. As I said a minute ago, I just really cannot believe that this is happening to us. It's almost like a nightmare, and I hope that we can prevail ultimately in the courts and in the court of public opinion to convince our legislators ultimately that this has been a very bad decision. Thank you.
Let's see, can we lower this just, well, I guess I can look up.
How many pages is that?
Well, I cut it down from 11 to 7. You'll be happy to know. The older I get, the more short-winded I get, so that's a blessing for all of you. First, I'd like to thank the mayor, my mayor, Terry Bellamy, for scheduling this meeting, and I thank the City Council for being right here with her. Thank the citizens of Asheville and Buncombe County for the amazing advocacy that they've done on behalf of this community. And I want to especially thank all of those folks, the mayor, the council, the citizens, for not making this a partisan issue. From the get-go, that has been kept out of it, and I am very proud of everybody for doing that, because it's not a partisan issue. My printing machine did something wacky on me this morning, and being the techno nincompoop that I am, I didn't know how to correct it before I came over here, so I will read this with as few halts as possible. You know, when I was mayor and would meet or speak over the phone with various company heads, business people who were thinking about coming to our community to set up shop, the three prime issues they were concerned about for their companies and for their personal families was the water, the schools, and the convenience of the airport. And so it tells you how important these issues are that are being confiscated and threatened by some folks in the state legislature. You know, recently Governor McCrory stated that in referring to the federal government, he said that states should have more independence and flexibility in spurring its own growth. Well, 86% of the people in Asheville asked for the same consideration from the state and didn't get it. So I guess what's good for the goose is not necessarily good for the gander. I'll try not to repeat anything that's been said or will be said, so I'll keep my remarks limited. At its worst, the Moffitt-McGrady-Ramsey bill is discriminatory legislation because it uniquely, in many ways, targets just Asheville. Several cities, as Susan Fisher just mentioned, Wake County, were actually granted exemptions from this legislation by simply asking for it. This House bill offers no compensation to the tax-paying, rate-paying public that has invested over many years in a water system that's the envy of cities across this country. Even eminent domain has a return for its taking. This bill also allows for the privatization of the authority's administration, in spite of the fact that Mr. Moffitt has repeatedly promised that privatization was not on the agenda. This would allow an unelected private administration to condemn property, set rates, impose taxes, and more. What this legislation also allows is for Henderson County to get a disproportionate number of seats on the authority, and will ultimately result in Buncombe County residents, which includes Asheville residents, to subsidize growth, jobs, the economy, water, and sewers for Henderson County. Asheville and Buncombe County have come a long way, recognized for its early visionaries, its hardworking people, its businesses and tourism, and its inclusion on so many best lists. The question that remains unanswered is, why mess with success? Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Glad you're here. I'm going to, well, you know what, it must be pretty intimidating for people and creating a lot of anxiety to see nearly 15 people who are in office up here, knowing that a lot of us could be, well, conceivably, might be long-winded. You see, I learned the lesson when I was mayor. I had hosted a reception up at the Grove Park Inn, and there were 200 people. And I was introduced and expected to make a talk, a speech. Well, let me tell you, I got the most applause I have ever gotten from any speech that I took. What I said was, the speech this evening will be, there is no speech. So, I'll make it quick. I'll go back really to 1997. I was mayor then, actually even before that, in 1995. I was mayor between 93 and 95, or 97, actually for 2 terms. I was on the Land of Sky board with the chair of the Henderson County Commission. His name was Volley Good. We got on famously. We cooperated and created the Mills River water station. Okay. Everything was going very well. There were a few bumps after I left office, but that was just kind of detail stuff. Okay, Henderson County then became part of the overall system because the Mills River Station would serve some of the individuals in the county in Henderson. So we had a good relationship right there. This enhanced the capacity of our North Fork Reservoir and Bee Tree, because back in 1988 we had such a severe drought that we were down to within days of restrictions from the state. So it was necessary, and how wonderful it is that we are in the position now that we can sell water to the surrounding communities. Asheville has been a good steward since that time for the water system. We really have. We've put money into it, millions and millions of dollars upgrading this system. And when you consider our system is over 100 years old in some places, 100 years old in most areas, maybe 50 and 60 in some. It needs continual maintenance and service because of the high water pressures that we have. Well, this is pretty common knowledge, but to have 2 legislators, one from Henderson County and one who does not even live in the city of Asheville, create legislation to take the water system from us. This is the city of Asheville's most valuable asset. And for a long time, since the 30s, we have been adding to and extending water in every area that needed to be built out. To take this is really a disaster for this city, because it could conceivably create a lot of jobs in the future. It will create build-out of assets in other areas to be developed. The city of Asheville has been a good steward. Now, let me just mention this idea that the people who pay their water bills are owners is ludicrous. The people, actually, the city of Asheville holds the water system for the benefit of its citizens. Let me give you an example. If you had a farm and you leased out part of your farm to someone to share crop, et cetera, that person doesn't own your property. If I rent a house, I don't develop any ownership in that house. And so it is. The city of Asheville owns the water system for the benefit of its citizens. If you have stock in Duke Energy, you are a part owner because you paid for it specifically. However, if you are a customer of Duke Energy, do you have ownership? No, you do not. So this is a taking. It's a taking, and takings are provided for by the law, and they're legal if compensation is provided. I see no compensation in this, and I think this is a disaster for the city. I think that the legislature should be quite aware of what they are doing and what long-term detriments will occur because of this. Thank you for listening.
Former Mayor Michael Love.
Russ, I'm glad that wasn't a long speech.
I did my best.
Well, mine will be shorter than that, for sure.
That's your address book.
That's right. This is a shotgun wedding. I wrote to the governor Saturday, and I said, Governor, if you were still mayor of Charlotte, you wouldn't let this happen to the city of Charlotte. The other thing I wrote to the governor was, there are about 10 cities that contribute to the regions that they are in. Asheville, Charlotte, Raleigh, 7 or 8 others. But because of the water system, Asheville has contributed to the economic development of this entire western North Carolina, particularly the surrounding counties. The city should not be penalized for giving this growth to western North Carolina. This is an abuse of power. It's a theft. It's violated the city's rights. And I'm concerned about individuals that will profit from this and not the communities.
Thank you, Mayor. And I do need to add that Mayor Michael Love was also the city manager for some time of the city of Asheville as well. So he speaks with a lot of knowledge about understanding our system. And former council member Joe Dunn would also like an opportunity to speak as well.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say I really do feel outnumbered up here. Well, that's true. But as a Republican, and serving up here, and Mayor Bellamy and Jan and Charlie, there you go. It was a pleasure. I was on council on 05, and we voted to take the water system back, and I supported that 100%. I felt like the city should have the right to put water lines in wherever it wants to, because there were places in Asheville where water lines weren't there. So I supported that, but I'm going to have to give you a little bit of the Republican comeback on this. I don't agree with a lot of this, but when we took it back, we were going to charge differential water rates, which I strongly opposed. I was the only one in council that did. I said, if we do this, we're going to inherit the wind, and I think we have to a certain degree. Now, I'm not blaming Asheville for all this, but that's one of the issues. I think there is some pushback on the legislature. There's some anger out there, and they want to get back, and I think that was one of the underlying issues. That's why we're in this lawsuit now, why they took it back. Another argument is the money has been taken out of the water system for various city issues. I think if we'd taken a low-key approach, some of this would have been avoided. But I do believe the legislature, and I have a lot of friends down there, are wrong. I don't know how you can say with a straight face, especially after the Beech-Tree reservoirs were built and the infrastructure to bring water into the city, I don't see how you can say that you can just take that away without reimbursing the city for it. I think my colleagues, not my colleagues, my friends in Raleigh are wrong about this. And as a Republican, I'm going to stand up here and support the city of Asheville on this lawsuit. It's unfortunate. I think that maybe Asheville is a little overstating the fact that they should control all the water system out here, but reimbursement's a big issue for me, and I do think the Beech-Tree Reservoir and other places were built way before the Sullivan Agreement was ever put in place. And personally, I'm upset that my colleagues in Raleigh, not my colleagues, but some of my friends in Raleigh would do this to the city. It's going to hurt all of us. It's going to hurt me. It's going to hurt everybody here. And so as one Republican, I'm going to stand up here and say, my party's wrong. Thank you.
Now we have former state representative Jane Weldon, who's going to say something.
I would like to thank everyone that came today. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your interest. I appreciate all of these behind us that are working to solve this situation. I'd like to say from a little bit of experience that they've chosen some very fine law firms. And I'd like to say that one of the things that Lenny said, this is not a Democrat-Republican. This is an issue of fairness and the right thing. And obviously what has been done in the legislature is not fair and it's not right. And I'm proud to stand here in opposition to this bill and this takeover of the water system. Thank you.
Now we're going to hear from Councilman Bothwell.
I wanted to pass along that I had breakfast with Board of Commissioners Chair David Gant this morning. He said he couldn't be here, but he's 100% behind this. He's on board with Asheville in regard to this lawsuit. And I want to say that I'm only being slightly hyperbolic when I say that they'll get the water system when they can pry my cold, dead hands from around the pipe.
All right. Councilman Pelley.
Very briefly, Mayor, a lot of foresight was shown 100 years ago when the leaders of that day brought together the Beech-Tree and North Fork reservoirs and preserved that today. And I appreciate all the support being shown here by past and present leaders to continue to protect that asset here. And I think one thing that's I've sort of seen in this process here and with this legislation here, it's served to bring Asheville together in a way that few other issues have, and I really appreciate the broad spectrum of opinion represented here today, and thank you all for coming.
Councilman Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that it's really important to be here today because I think one of the hardest decisions that we ever made was to dissolve the original or the latest agreement back in 2005. That was in Charlie and Joe and the mayor and my time there, and to have lived through this whole thing, it's come to this. At this point, we have improved that system greatly since that dissolution, and in fact, it was in very serious disrepair, and had we not done that, that would not have happened in this period of time. So we've developed a tremendous system, still needs lots of work, and we're in a position to be the steward of that work, and it's the way it should be, it's the way it's intended to be, and for us to lose the ability to do that would be a tragedy for this whole area and whole region. So thank you for coming out this morning.
I want to thank everyone for coming out today, and again, I want to thank all the current elected officials as well as former elected officials for being here. I will open it up for questions, but I won't hit any of the subjects that have already been touched on, but please know that we have made sure we're transparent in this process, and I think it's fair to state or restate that when it was put upon us that the committee said that we are to work with MSD to look at a possible merger scenario, we took that challenge on seriously. It wasn't something that we slighted. We sent a lot of information over. We received a lot of information. We did a lot of analysis. We looked at collaborations. And we were getting to a good place where there were some possibilities for us to collaborate, to have some cost savings, and we've looked at those. I think it's important to point out with the capital improvement program that the City of Asheville has, we work with the MSD program and their capital improvement program. We've never been against partnership as a city, as a council, as a community. We're always looking at positive partnerships, and I think what the state is doing is quite heavy-handed, and I don't think it's in the best interest of Asheville, Buncombe County, or any municipality or county in North Carolina. I will open it up for questions at this time, and if there aren't, yes, Ms. Ho. We've never had anybody ask to help us with a legal fund. I will take the checks. I won't say no. How about that? The legal defense fund to keep the water. I think we can come up with a enterprise fund to put it in for the water system. And I think, Lauren, on your way out, you can fix that up for us. Yes.
Did MSD offer the city $57 million for compensation?
The MSD, Mr. Jackson and Lauren, I'm going to have to turn. I didn't get anything in writing. I'm not sure. Who are you pointing at?
Well, I mean, Councilman Pelley and Councilman Manheimer voted against the $57 million compensation offered by MSD. So I just want to clarify that because that seems like something that didn't get out in this press conference.
Well, I didn't know about that.
Just a second. Lauren, did we get an official request from MSD?
Through our analysis, and if you remember, at the work session that we had, there was, we were getting some
You want to speak
work
to that? You want to speak to that?
appraise the value of the system, and based on our initial evaluation, that number was far below what we believe the value of the system to be.
And I just want to formally state, as mayor, I hadn't gotten anything in writing asking us to accept that, but I will turn it over to the vice mayor. Mr. Cates. Mr. Cates.
Mr. Cates, I would clarify that there was a proposal that was put together by the MSD. It was not officially offered to the city, but it was a proposal that it made various assumptions about a merger. And the $57 million assumed that the watershed property would not be included in the transfer or any of the infrastructure included in that 20,000 plus acre part of the asset.
So the answer to me, I never received the proposal on behalf of the city of Asheville in writing from MSD for $57 million for our water system that's valued at over or nearly $1 billion when you include everything that's part of it. You can't have water without the water sources. From the media?
President Nathan Ramsey said that there were conversations, he's been engaged in some conversations with folks offline. I think they've been Citizen Times yesterday, 2 days ago. Have any of y'all been in discussions with any members of the General Assembly for some sort of a settlement out of court as he alluded to in the
I certainly haven't.
I'll say as a council collectively we have not. I'll say collectively as a council we have not had an opportunity to talk about what opportunities for settlement. The legislation was passed, and I think before then it would have been a good time for those opportunities to come to bear. Mark.
How much do you anticipate the lawsuit to cost the city?
Good question. And we will have to get that. I don't want to misquote, and so we will have to get that back to you because that's too important for us to just for me to do it off the cuff. All right, thank you all so very much for coming. I am available for questions after this. Thank you all so very much.